They were affectionate.
Yes.
They expressed love for one another.
They did.
You never expected in any regard that they had problems in their relationship based on what you saw.
Based on what I saw, no.
Right. They certainly never started sleeping in separate bedrooms or doing anything like that before 2018.
Not that I noticed, no.
Okay. And they seemed to have an open relationship where they talked about things.
I don't know what they talked about,
But in your presence, they would talk about things.
What do you mean?
Well, they seem to have open communications about their feelings and things like that before 2018 also.
Sure, if they're being affectionate, like I love you to each other, yeah. But I don't know.
Right.
The deep feelings between each other, I wasn't there for that, so, yeah.
You guys ate dinner together?
Yes.
By the way, when dinner was prepared, who would be primarily the preparer of dinners? It was your father, wasn't it?
My dad, yes.
Yeah. And he would be the one to use the cooking knives, right?
Sure, yeah.
And in fact, the cooking knives were a gift, weren't they, from Christine to your father?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. They were thought of as his kitchen knives, weren't they, or the cooking knives?
They were the cooking knives. Yes.
Okay. All right. Your relationship with your father was extremely close.
He was my hero.
He was a firefighter. You, for a while, wanted to be a firefighter. Is that right?
Yes.
He was in the military. You wanted to be in the military.
Yes.
Essentially, he was sort of a role model, wasn't he?
He was.
And when you think as highly of someone as you think about your father, it must be very hard to hear people say things that are not flattering about them, correct?
When I was younger, yes.
Yeah.
It was tough to hear, yeah.
And even when you were just getting out of high school in like 2018, to hear him talk about himself badly was also a painful experience since you loved him and he was such a role model to you.
Yes, it was tough, yeah.
Right. So when he came home in October of 2018 and sat everybody down and told you that he was an alcoholic, that must have been a pretty big blow to you, right?
It wasn't more of a blow, it was more of a confusion.
Right. And when he told you after that, you immediately went and he told you about the affair. That must have been extremely difficult for you to hear that.
That was a little bit tough, yeah.
Yeah. Because you didn't like holding the thought that your father had done something like this, given the way you thought about him.
Well, we put our heroes on high pedestals as
Right.
kids, so it was tough to hear, yeah.
Right. And it was clear during the conversation about the alcoholism, wasn't it, that was done with both you and Sophia present?
Me and her were next to each other on the couch.
Okay.
Yes.
And then he had the private conversation with you alone in the car.
Yes.
Was it clear to you during the conversation in the car that he was suggesting that his alcoholism played a role or was part of the story of the affair?
All he told me was that he saw another woman.
Okay. Did he tell you about, but it was clear at that point that he was saying that he was an alcoholic.
He didn't say that in the car with me. We talked about the alcoholism when we sat down. All he said was that I saw someone else in the car. He didn't say, I saw someone else because I was drinking. That wasn't told to me.
He had just told you that he was an alcoholic, and now he was telling you about another woman. Do I have that correct? About less than an hour later?
Yes.
When he told you about the other woman, did he say, that whole thing that I said earlier about alcoholism, I was just saying that?
No.
He didn't mention anything about that when you were alone.
Yeah, no, he didn't say that.
He would have known that you understood his words earlier to mean that he was saying that he was an alcoholic, correct?
If he was assuming that to me, then sure, but...
Well, he said it to you, right?
All he said was that I saw another woman. I mean, that's...
But in the group meeting, he said, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
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 And he never contradicted it when you were alone with him?
No.
Okay. After that conversation, you said that your father's sobriety date was 11/11?
I believe so.
Okay. So, even though he said he was an alcoholic in October of 2018, it may have taken him some time to start doing AA. Is that your understanding?
It seemed pretty immediate.
Pretty immediate. Okay.
Yeah.
So he starts doing AA immediately, right?
It seemed pretty quick.
And he started going to meetings almost daily, right? Multiple times a week.
I didn't pay attention how quickly he went, but
Okay. You know that eventually he started going almost daily, right?
sure, yeah,
And you're aware that he got a sponsor, correct?
he did, yeah.
Yeah. And you're aware that he was working the steps of AA, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware also that he would do commitments, correct? Where he would go talk to other AA groups?
I didn't know about that, no.
Okay.
I didn't know he'd talked to other groups.
Okay. Did you know that he went to a men's group?
I don't know
You
how
didn't
it
know, right?
works, so I don't really know.
Okay. So you never knew all the details of all the AA that he did. You just knew about his regular group meeting.
Yeah,
Okay. So he didn't talk to you about the men's group or doing commitments. Do I have that right?
yeah, no, that's very personal to him, so.
Okay. So you just don't know about that.
Yeah, I just wasn't
Okay.
there for it.
It was clear to you, though, after that conversation in the car in the Shaw's parking lot where he says, I was seeing another woman, that his plan is that he's going to stay and he's going to be working on the marriage. That was your understanding, right?
That was my understanding, yeah.
And part of that work meant that he was going to start going to counseling.
Sure.
Did he tell you about that in the car, or did you just find out that later?
That
when you
was
saw?
later on known information to me.
Okay. But your understanding was that he was there and he was going to do whatever work was necessary to fix the relationship.
Yes.
And did he communicate that to you in the car?
Not in the car, no.
Okay. But within about 2 months, you start seeing some real effort on the part of your father to get sober, to start going to counseling and do these things. And you forgive your father, don't you?
I do.
Within a couple months.
Well, I was supportive of my father.
Of course, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
But you had sort of, if you had any feelings about the fact that he had the affair, within about 2 months, seeing his efforts, you reconciled yourself to forgiving your father.
I didn't condone him for what he did, but I let him know that I'm not going to go anywhere and vilify him for doing it.
Right. And at that point, when you decided maybe about 2 months after that conversation, so we're talking end of 2018,
Okay, yeah.
does that make sense time-wise?
Yes.
More or less? Because you're out of the house by June 6, 2019, right? So end of 2018, you're seeing this effort by your father. You're feeling feelings of, forgiveness. You want things to go back to the way they were, don't you? The way they were before the conversation.
In a way, yeah.
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 The fact that the affair kept being brought up was keeping you from being able to go back to the way things were before the affair.
Well, I didn't want to. I'm not want to look to go back to the past. I mean, it'd be nice to not have that be brought up every single day.
Right. And you felt like your mother was bringing it up every day, and you really started to have a feeling of resentment towards your mother because she kept bringing it up after you had decided that you wanted to kind of go back to the way things were.
Well, it wasn't just because of that. There were other variables at hand even before doing
Okay.
stuff with that.
Okay, but you did have, in 2018 into 19, you did have some resentment towards your mother based on the way she handled getting over the affair.
That was a factor, yes.
Yeah.
That was the only thing.
You had other reasons for resenting your mother, but there's no question that by the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, you had a lot of resentment for your mother.
She was getting aggressive in the fights, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also, at that same period of time, didn't you? You were also working, or began to work, didn't you, for a guy by the name of Mac that you mentioned is close to your family?
Yes, I can't remember what year it started, but I believe I was working with him at the time,
Mhm.
I think.
So, were you already working with him, do you think, in October of 2018 when your father told you about the affair, or do you think that only happened after?
I started working for him after.
Okay. So maybe around the beginning of 2019?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you said that your father, who had been working for Mac doing fire sprinkler installations, started tapering down his work with Mac
Yes.
right after October 2018.
Sure, yeah.